In this episode, I'm going to show you how Chinese measure words for clothing work. The devil may not always wear Prada, but it's definitely in Chinese measure words. Let's meet the devil. They call it learning, we say it's fun. Welcome to Fun Mandarin 玩中文。大家好, I'm Brian. As you know, context is key. So we're stepping into a fashion magazine office. Listen to the dialogue between the editor-in-chief, Elvis, and the assistant, Andy, as they go over the items needed for tomorrow's editorial photo shoot. Pay attention to how the measure words pair with each item, and see if you can find the devil hiding in the measure words. 明天早上的拍摄，所有的服装和配件，今天下午5点前要准备好。没问题吧？总编尽管吩咐。我要3件白色的衬衫，1件长版的西装外套，2条短裙，1条黑色的七分裤。要搭配皮带吗？这种问题还要问我吗？那准备3件不同款式的好了。Now, let's take a look at Andy's note from the meeting with Elvis. Andy got 白色的衬衫，长版的西装外套，短裙，黑色的七分裤。He also wrote down the quantity for each item using the same measure word, 件. Is that correct? Let's go back and check what Elvis said. 我要3件白色的衬衫，1件长版的西装外套，2条短裙，1条黑色的七分裤。Look, only 衬衫 and 西装外套 use 件。For 短裙 and 七分裤, Elvis used 条。Do you know why? That's because 条 is usually used for long-shaped things, anything from food to everyday objects. When it comes to clothing, we often use 条 for bottoms, and the same goes for some long-shaped accessories. For example, 一条围巾，一条围巾，一条手链。一条手链。So, Andy definitely got this wrong. 那准备3件不同款式的好了。Belts are long and narrow, so the right measure word for 皮带 should be 条, not 件. On the other hand, 件 is usually used for upper body clothing items, just like the two items, 衬衫 and 西装外套 mentioned in the dialogue. For 衬衫, people in China also say 衬衣. Interestingly, 西装外套 is made up of 西装 and 外套. However, when we talk about 西装 by itself, it usually refers to a matching suit with a blazer and a pair of trousers. So instead of saying 一件西装, we would say 一套西装. 套 is not just used for a match outfit. It can also be used for other things that come together as a complete set, collection, or package. For example, 一套小说，一套小说，一套沙发，一套沙发。Think you found all the devils? Hold on a sec. Elvis still has more surprises up his sleeve. Let's see what's coming Andy's way. 对了，选一顶帽子，不要太浮夸，但是要够抢眼。耳环不用成对，一只就好。哦，还有 一副太阳眼镜，不用挑最贵的，但是一定要全球限量款。好了，就这样。所以 Poor Andy. I bet you can feel for his stress. Let's check what he's got on his notes and see if we can fix them. In this part of Andy's notes, we have some accessories, and it starts with hat, 帽子, with the measure word missing. Listen again to what Elvis said. 对了，选一顶帽子。Did you catch the measure word? Spot on, it's 顶. Looking at the character 顶, we notice the radical 业 on the right. What clue does the radical 业 give us? That's right. It's related to the head or face. This contributes to the literal meaning of 顶, as it means on top of the head or the peak of mountain or other objects. That's why 顶 is used as a measure word for hat. Knowing the radical 业 really help us recognize and remember the meaning of 顶. So, if you want to know more radicals like 业, make sure to check out this episode later. Back to the measure word. We can see Andy put 耳环 on his list. Good news! Elvis did request an earring, but unfortunately, it's not quite what Andy had in mind. Andy put 一对耳环 on the list. The measure word 对 means a pair as a measure word for accessories. However, Elvis said 耳环不用成对，一只就好。Apparently, he doesn't want the earring in a pair, but only one. So instead of 一对耳环, Andy should just get 一只耳环. 只 is the measure word for one item from a pair. It is also a common measure word for individual animals. For example, 一只鸟，一只鸟，一只狗，一只狗。By the way, when talking about a pair of earrings, you will also hear 副 used as the measure word, as in 一副耳环. Even though 对 and 副 can both be used as the measure word for a pair of earrings, but their focus is different. 对 focuses on two separate matching items, but 副 implies a set of parts that function together as one unit. So, the missing measure word for 太阳眼镜 in Andy's note should be 副, because glasses are seen as a single set made of lenses and a frame. So far, we've helped Andy fix the list of clothing and accessories. Let's see if there's more trouble. More requests from the editor-in-chief. 哦，差点忘了鞋子。一双帆布鞋看起来越旧越好。哦，就跟你脚上的那双差不多，但是要干净一点。一双水蓝色的凉鞋，一双红色的高跟鞋，但是一只鲜红色，一只砖红色。所以高跟鞋要3双。别拿这种事烦我。好了，你可以走了。The last part is all about shoes. Although Andy got all the different types of shoes on his notes, he still seems very confused about the quantity Elvis asked for. He used the measure word 双 for all of the items, and that's what got him confused. 双, like 对 and 副, is often translated as a pair in English. So it gives the sense of two objects that naturally come together. However, in Mandarin, for a pair of shoes, you will rarely hear 一对鞋子 or 一副鞋子. Those sound very strange to native speakers. Instead, we use 双 because it is commonly used for two coordinated items that function together as one unit. Quick question. When talking about one shoe from a pair, what measure word should we use? Yes, it's 只, just like when we talk about one earring from a pair. Now, let's look at Andy's notes again. Did you find the devil in the measure words? Elvis did request a pair of canvas shoes, 一双帆布鞋, and a pair of baby blue sandals, 一双水蓝色的凉鞋. But for 高跟鞋, if we follow Andy's notes, he would have to prepare 3 pairs of high heels. However, that is wrong, because Elvis only requested 1 pair, as he said. 一双红色的高跟鞋，但是一只鲜红色，一只砖红色。Apparently, it should be a mix and match pair. One bright red, 一只鲜红色 and one brick red, 一只砖红色 Well, it's not common to have 2 different colors as one pair of shoes, but I guess it's for fashion shooting, so different rules apply. But forget about fashion. It's absolutely a classic example of how the devil is hiding in the measure words. Messing them up, like 只 and 双, will lead to confusion, just like it did for Andy. Here's one more memory trick for you. If you look at the traditional Chinese characters, 只 and 双, you will notice they share the same radical, 追, which originally represented a short-tailed bird. The component 右 symbolizes a right hand, suggesting the idea of holding or carrying something. So, in 只, you can imagine one bird in hand, giving the sense of a single item. Meanwhile, 双 shows you 2 birds in hand, suggesting a pair or a set of 2. Through helping fix Andy's mistakes, I believe you are now more confident using these measure words for clothing, accessories, and footwear. Now, let's test them out. Look at each item and say its measure word out loud within 3 seconds. Ready? 一件毛衣，一条喇叭裤，一套睡衣，一只蓝色的长袜，一双靴子，一顶假发，一顶假发，一副老花眼镜，一条项链，一对婚戒。From all the examples, we can summarize the general rules for measure words for clothing. 件 is for upper body clothing and outwear. 条 is for lower body clothing and long-shaped accessories. 套 is for clothing that comes as a complete set. 顶 is for headwear, such as hats or wigs. 双 is for 2 coordinated pieces functioning together as one unit. 只 is for a single item from a pair. 对 is for 2 matching counterpart items. 副 is for an assembled set functioning as one unit. Here's my final takeaway. Picking up measure words through examples on the same topic is much more effective than memorizing a random list. So, after this episode, make sure to go back and recap the measure words for food and drinks from our previous episode. 谢谢收看 Fun Mandarin 玩中文，我们下次见。